Hi, this is Tim of the 1916 Company. Welcome and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email us tmosso at the1916company.com for purchase pricing and availability questions regarding this watch. So today we are discussing something that was launched in late 2022 for the 2023 model year, part of the lineage that began in 2011 with the UR-110. This is the Urwerk UR-120 Spock. And yes, we are talking about that Spock, the watch which features a signature Vulcan salute when its carousels are not engaged, is a tribute to science fiction in the 1960s. Martin Fry, designer, and Felix Baumgartner, watchmaker and engineer at Urwerk, are great fans, and this watch reflects that ardor. So, compared to the original 110, this is actually a smaller watch. Two different ways to understand this. The upper case is stainless steel, and then the lower case is made of titanium, so it is a two-metal watch. In terms of how it wears, it's 47.1 from side to side, 14.6 millimeters thick, and if we just go lug to lug, not the crown guard profile, then across the wrist, this is going to be 43.8 millimeters, but I also think that measuring to the edge of the articulated lugs is important, and that is broader, but still viable, 53.9 millimeters. We'll throw this watch on my wrist of 16 centimeters circumference, and one of the key ergonomic features here is that the lugs, which are spring-loaded, are also articulated. You see how it'll always return to its outstretched orientation? That is the spring-loaded action. On the wrist, though, it's a lot friendlier than the 110. My wrist is 16 centimeters in circumference. This wears just fine. I think because of the way the lugs move and angle, you could probably get away with wearing this on a 15 centimeter circumference wrist. Dimensionally, compared to the UR-110, what are we talking about? What are the changes? Well, the 110 was 47 millimeters by 51 millimeters by 16 millimeters, so it's bigger all around. This is a more organic shape, but it's also a smaller, thinner watch that is particularly shorter across the wrist. And you can see how it's more long down the wrist than broad across the wrist. Easy to read. It's a digital scale, so you're reading the hour that is indicated, and then you read the minute next to the index. Let's do a quick loom shot, but first let's talk about the strap, actually. This is important. The strap is made of calfskin. It looks like ballistic textile, but this is an embossed pattern. It is leather on top and leather on the bottom, more clearly on the bottom. But then there's a little bit of bolstering to give it volume, a monotone stitch, a folded edge. You can see it's fixed to the case using screws and bars, which is a nice secure way of fixing the component. You also have a media blasted matching pin buckle. And in profile, you can see that we have these little rubber grips, and then we have a little crown guard or cap. I'm going to call it more of a crown on a crown that makes it easy to manipulate or close the crown. This is how it works. You pull the crown out to set the watch. This little guard is canted up now. To lock it back down, you press it. But first, let's talk about this display. If you're new to Urwerk, then this is going to be your introduction to the wandering hours type complications. So very different from the 1991 AP Star Wheel, but a similar concept. The oncoming hour is a digit, so that's 2. Now it's 2:10. And now it's 2:15. So you read the minute adjacent to the current hour, because this is Spock inspired, and Spock is a Vulcan, and the Vulcan salute is splayed fingers like that. You could see how the numerals actually break up and reform, but while they are outboard of the scale, they break up into a splayed V-like form. And so that is your Vulcan salute. That is the Spock nod. And of course, Spock, a famous character on the American sci-fi TV series Star Trek. Hard to believe it didn't even run for 3 years in its original iteration from 1966 to 1969, but Spock was one of the officers on the Starship Enterprise, a half Vulcan and half human. He muted his emotions, although he was not totally without. He was perhaps the most interesting character in the original series. So right here we have 4:30, and you can see the watch, like most Urwerk watches, is pretty spectacular in the dark. And a lot of people don't see this coming. I think Urwerk and Resence do special things with lume that people don't expect to encounter. So easy to read this one in the dark. It is a digital scale. Exotic materials used for the carousels. You can see in particular the use of physical vapor deposition to apply 24 karat gold. Underneath, we have media blast, we have satination, we have polish, we have engine turning. And then underneath, we have a Windfanger regulatory system. So let me see if I can find the little turbine that regulates the rotating speed of the rotor. So this helps to preserve the winding system of the Zenith Elite base. Urwerk uses a Zenith Elite because it is a thin, fine, high horology tractor movement that is also designed with enough torque to drive complications, which is why it is used in this case. Everything above the waterline is Urwerk manufacturer watchmaking. Everything below, with the exception of the Windfanger system, is Zenith. So unidirectional automatic winding, the combination of the top and the bottom is called the UR-20.01, and it's got a 48-hour power reserve. It pivots on 32 joules. It's a 4 hertz beat rate. It does have a stop seconds function, though without seconds, it's not terribly obvious. A grill-like design on the back, designed to hold this on your wrist and keep it steady. You can also see that we have this little note limited by production, not limited by edition number. Urwerk production is low, thus they put limited on the back, but it is not a set number of watches. Evolution of the 110, this is the new, more organic, smaller, and just as visually stimulating UR-120 Spock, one of the most spectacular watches you can buy. I don't know if a Starfleet officer could have afforded this, but perhaps in private life, this is something Leonard Nimoy would have really enjoyed. If you love this watch, reach out to Team Mosso at the1916company.com. And in case you're wondering about water resistance, it's dress watch style, so 30 meters. Again, Team Mosso at the1916company.com for purchase and pricing details.